initiator of the concept Super Sidewalks, and I'm going to share it with you right now. It all goes back to 2014 when I was employed in the Danish traffic engineering consultancy. I was asked to help the municipality of Elsinore, where some of the politicians wanted a wooden sidewalk in a street connecting the marina with the beach. But paving sidewalks in wood has a potential of conflicts and accidents, so what to do? I met the client's needs by suggesting different scenarios, varying the materials and designs, maintenance and costs. Then the politicians chose the most expensive one with free combination of materials, and the conflict was avoided. This sidewalk opened my mind to the potentials of prioritizing the design of selected sidewalks, making cities more livable and notching walking in specific routes. So that's how the concept of Super Sidewalk emerged, and it's the takeoff for this presentation. It's available in the handout box in the GoToWebinar platform. The agenda is, first of all, I'll make an introduction and explain the vision briefly. A new common word, the keyword, gives a platform for communication and decision-making and design. The toolbox consists of 8 guidelines for integrated design. After going through the theoretical approach, I will show you 3 Danish case studies. Finally, we will have some key takeaways and questions and answers. Why a super sidewalk? Yeah, the pedestrian has increasingly been pushed aside to the motorized vehicles for a long time, despite all of us are pedestrians on our journey when shifting means of transportation. You see here Pompeii for 2,000 years ago with equal space organization. The residents on one side with small sidewalks, and on the other side there are shops with a little broader sidewalks. In the middle you have the street, very classical, and it's 3 meters. It's an equal space use. On the left side you see on below that you see a street in Copenhagen where you have unequal space use, only 1.5 meters for sidewalks and very much for bicycle lanes, parking and driving. On the other side, on the right side, you see the potential. I just went to Italy, and in Taormina in Sicily I saw this. On the upper picture here, you see a street approximately 6.5 meters broad and wide, and you have only half a meter sidewalk. And if you go through that tunnel, you go down and you see a street where a sidewalk that ends in the street. You have absolutely no sidewalk, and it's a very touristic town. So what I would like to do here is to let the traffic go underground in tunnels and leave this space and the beautiful views for pedestrians and bicycles. So the new concept prioritizing pedestrians in city planning is needed because we have overlooked that walking is for free, and it's the ultimate freedom. Walking is healthy and potentially social and healing. Walking is the most cost-effective transportation one can do at any time, shorter distances. So if you, I have made a little case here. We have the central station in Copenhagen here at point A, and we can make a route up to point B, which is a nice walk, could be a nice walk on a super sidewalk. The red dot here is actually a super sidewalk today, so I'm connecting a little piece of super sidewalk to the rest. And if you go, you see the transport here up in the table, you can see that the different means of transportation, and you can save 3 to 14 minutes by going with by not walking. So if you walk, you will stay healthy, save money, and limit the CO2 emission. And a fun fact here is a Norwegian scientist, Helge Hindhytter, says that pedestrians are willing to walk up to 70% further if it offers pleasant, stimulating, and motivating surrounding, if it generates well-being, if shopping is possible, if shorter waiting at intersections. So what we do in traffic planning here is that we often overlook this transit and parking, and that's why it's only 3 to 14 minutes you add to your journey if you choose walking. The vision of the Super Sidewalk is integrates all the best. It's a chosen route for walking. It's a real alternative to buses, cars, trains at shorter distances up to approximately 2 kilometers. The concept making, the key word, is that the new Super Sidewalk is a key to pave the way for better communication and planning, and it will serve as a platform for decision making and design. Then the keyword makes investments in Super Sidewalks more likely. It's a parallel to the concept for super bike lanes or super bicycle highways, which has been very successful worldwide. The initial dialogue with the client has the purpose to unfold the client's needs and ideas by questions. Discuss what is important for the client and unfold the potentials of the Super Sidewalk with the client. By using the following 8 guidelines for Super Sidewalks, we can make cities more livable and future ready. And here comes the 8 guidelines. Connecting. The design guideline number 1 for Super Sidewalk is connecting major junction terminals and destination and tourist attractions. Think big. It starts with an ambitious plan. Co-work with a city and traffic planner. We want to guide and nudge the pedestrians to find their healthy way throughout points of interest of the city. WSP can offer step-by-step approach by dividing the project into phases according to the client's needs. At this phase, you must identify the stakeholders and search for partnerships. For instance, public transportation companies, shops, property owners, public institutions. The Super Sidewalk can be relevant in both coming up and existing towns. Make sure that you have got enough space though. For instance, when big sewage and piping constructions are planned in streets, it gives opportunities to rethink the future street. And what we see here is the major junction terminals, destination, tourist attractions. And we have here in the lower, the small red line I showed you on the picture before, suggesting a new Super Sidewalk. This is the actually realized Super Sidewalk in Copenhagen. Can I see my, yeah, here. And you see here, very broad Super Sidewalk connecting different attractions. So toolbox here, the design guideline number 2 is more than 3 meters wide, because that is enough to walk hand in hand and pass one another. But the width must be scaled to the site and the expected sum of pedestrians. Convince the client to register the traffic before and after, and remind to register the overlooked pedestrians. The design guideline number 3 is universal or inclusive design. Leave no one behind. The accessibility of a society is a fundamental precondition for creating equal opportunities to all. Everyone has reduced abilities in a period of their lives. Only some have it for a whole lifetime. In Denmark, most public project has 1 or more accessibility audits in the planning phases. We have a Danish guideline looking like this, and the photo here shows the High Line in New York, offering nice strolling and long benches with armrests. Watch the nice green and cooling borders and fine paving. The design guideline number 4 is integration of climate adaptation, native vegetation and wildlife. Make sufficient space for rain management, soil, plants, and wildlife. The less paving, the more seepage and/or rain retainment. The more of this, the more space for plants and wildlife. Vegetation, especially trees, are retaining water temporarily, which is good for the microclimate. Trees are also offering shadows and evaporation, which is important to reduce the urban heat island effect. The vegetation is very important to make the variation of the road and to show the changing seasons of the year. Prefer domestic spaces to boost the local vegetation and wildlife. The design guideline number 5 is adapting the scales. We have to be aware of the scales and the architectural appearance of the site, vertical versus horizontal, light versus heavy, adapted to the time used to walk by. We need to deal with the speed, types of and amount of traffic, bicycles, cars, buses, trams, to understand the functionality and to challenge the use of the space. Is it calm or busy? Is it changeable? The scale and the quality of paving, tiles, trees, and other materials needs to correlate with the surroundings. That's why you need to co-work with a landscape architect focusing on scales, form and function, appearance and maintenance. The picture shows a super sidewalk in Copenhagen, a huge investment to improve the conditions for pedestrians by narrowing the car lanes and enlarging the sidewalks, adding a vegetation zone here and bicycle parking over here, which divides the pedestrians from the heavy traffic. The design guideline number 6 is communicating seasons of the year and the identity of the place. We want to improve the variation and the stimuli, taking the inherent local qualities into account. Therefore, we need to identify the most commonly used materials and the identity and spirit of the street and neighborhood. We can play with the colors, contrast materials, and scales that strengthen the identity and accessibility. We care for present plants and irrigate with rainwater. To enhance the unique feeling of the site, you can narrate the identity and spirit through the choice of materials and holistic design. The picture shows here the different designs growing from natural, historical, industrial, or majestic surroundings. By using plants, tiles, cobblestones, wood, and cast iron, either in the vicinity of the sea or as a part of an upper-class quarter in the capital, you may narrate the city. The design guideline number 7 for Super Sidewalk is illuminated in a human scale, architectural lighting. The lighting is adapted to the pedestrians, for instance, slow speed, 5 to 15 kilometers an hour. The lighting makes you feel safe and secure. It is cozy and points of interest can be lit in artistic ways. Intersections are highlighted. There is no glaring, and there's no long distance lighting. The photo shows a project I made for a square. The lighting is soft. The focus is on the, I can point here, on the fountain with the statue. And the streets here are lit a little bit more intense by nice armatures in the tree rows and wired armatures in the intersections and corners of the square. You can see here very much lighting in the intersections where traffic meets. The design guideline number 8 for Super Sidewalk is offering attractive, comfortable, varied, safe and secure routes to everyone by interdisciplinary approach. By using professionals interdisciplinary, we are able to meet the needs of the client and the citizens to bring out the best solutions. Please remember the variation, a piece of art, artistic lighting, functional use of different materials and plants. Work with the alterations from day to night and the seasons of the year. Use the rain wisely, it's a source of life. Use all the 8 guidelines if possible, but it's no dogma. The 8 design guidelines for the Super Sidewalk are as follows. I will leave them here to be read by you. WSP can meet the client's needs by helping the client to discover the possibilities in the Super Sidewalk and the potential of the city. Now we go to case studies. This is Istedgade in Copenhagen. Once there were narrow sidewalks, wide car lanes, and unorganized parking. Today, the sidewalks are wider throughout minor intersections, prioritizing pedestrians, exhibition areas, and outdoor servings. The same materials, but new lighting. It's more inclusive. The bonus is more retail and social life, better safety and accessibility, in addition to seasonal appearance. And you can see here how the shops are taking in the new and enlarged sidewalks. And here the intersection, and here the new so-called Istedgade lighting. The fun fact here is that the street was initially planned with bike lanes, but the citizens wanted more space for pedestrians, choosing mixed wheel traffic. Case study number 2, Sankt Anna Square in Copenhagen. Cloudburst protection can improve the urban space, while better conditions for retail life and fine architectural adaptation to the site are achieved. In 2014, up here, there are narrow sidewalks, wide car lanes, and unorganized parking, plenty of asphalt and concrete. Now, the sidewalks are wider in granite, you see it down here. The car lanes are reduced to a minimum, and we are prioritizing pedestrian safety and outdoor servings. It's different materials, but the same lighting and less asphalt. What you see here is historical paving introduced again, and we see here is water management. We have integrated inclusive design in a very fine way here. And the funny thing here is it's turned upside down. Former, the parking was on the street as usual, but now it's on the sidewalk. And only short-term parking for 15 minutes, which is set by this sign here. So it's really, we are pushing the cars out and giving space for the pedestrians. Case study 3, Cherries Village in Hornby. This is actually the birth of the Super Sidewalk, as I mentioned in the beginning. Here, I was landscape architect and project manager in my former employment at Via Trafik. The sidewalk is connecting the marina with the main entrance to the beach. Once, there were narrower sidewalks in asphalt and wide car lanes, also in asphalt. Today, the sidewalks are wider, prioritizing pedestrians, outdoor servings, and retail. Different materials, inclusive design. Bonus is more social life, more shops, more playful, better safety. In addition, it's a landscape architecture dealing with the site, seasons, and functions. And the architectural adaptation to the site is shown here, like the functional and material approach. It's inspired by the main attraction at the Cherries village. The next slide shows that. What we have here is dry, wet, slippery, and sometimes inaccessible. Here we have some dry and accessible, dry, plain, and accessible, danger, watch out. Like here, the traffic is dangerous. So I will go on this slide and tell you like this here, the land, the wood and the land is safe and a place to stay, and the granite tiles is like the beach, place to walk, and the rocket tiles is being alert and tactile. The traffic is near. It's also what you see here is dealing with different population. In the summertime, it's a lot of people, and in the winter, fewer people. And there's a significant difference in the temperatures. The different paving materials offers functional separations. The Sustainable Development Goals is supported by the Super Sidewalk. I have here framed the one I think is very important, going through. I will not go through any of them because the time is short. And then the conclusions here. Super sidewalks can nudge people to walk more often and for longer distances, integrate climate adaptation, reduce CO2 emissions, improve social life, improve conditions for retail, improve health, include all people. You need to work interdisciplinary. Then we can turn cities more livable for people, plants and wildlife. That's future ready. Finally, above all, do not lose your desire to walk. Every day I walk myself into a state of well-being and walk away from every illness. I have walked myself into my best thoughts, and I know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk away from it. But by sitting still, and the more one sits still, the closer one comes to feeling ill. Thus, if one just keeps on walking, everything will be all right. It's not my words, it's Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish theologian and philosopher. Thank you for participating. Please walk and feel free to use the 8 future-ready super pavement, super sidewalk guidelines and reach out to me to discuss your project. I will be happy to help you.
Thank you, Pernille, for a fantastic presentation. It will be good to see you now, or if you can open your webcam. We have just 5 minutes to cover some questions, so you can log your questions in the question box, and also you can have access to the handouts. The PDF is available to download in the handout box. I will start with the first question. Does this concept facilitate the maintenance of more native vegetation for wildlife habitat?
Yeah, it does, indeed. If you make space enough, as I told you in the presentation, you will be able to plant native plants and choose areas for wildlife. So yes, indeed, it does facilitate.
Thank you. Is the concept relevant for both existing cities as well as urban development?
Indeed. All the case studies I showed you was existing cities, but I am also involved in city planning where they're on ground field, or what do you call it? There are no cities, but we are enlarging cities, so it's in the vicinity of a city. And then it's really important to see how do we connect schools and institutions and connect with the existing city in this new town. Oh, the webcam is close by.
The next question is, how can you promote the master thinking for pedestrians?
Yes, I think it's very important to have this keyword, this that we all have to use it and take it in. If we don't do that, we will it would not be operational.
Thank you. We have here a question about the parking, which was the examples that you gave where the parking was being done on the sidewalk. What was the pedestrian vehicle interaction like?
Well, I am not sure. I know we haven't heard of any accidents or anything. If that was what the question was, it's why when you slow down in such narrow lanes, the cars, which you slow down the speed, and then you have to kind of sneak into the sidewalk to park. So actually there is no danger. It's this small lane is also shared with the bicyclists, so it's really, you're in very slow speed.
Thank you. There's a question here, how can you meet the client needs for more livable cities?
I think the question is that we have to have this very kind of fine dialogue with the client in the beginning and introduce them to this keyword Super Sidewalk as an option. And then when we know the 8 guidelines, it's much more easy to talk about it and to define what is it, what do you want, and to prioritize between the 8, because as I said, it was no dogma. Sometimes 5 of the guidelines are more important than 3 of them. So sometimes you have to, but the best of course is if you can have all 8 guidelines in your project.
Thank you. Do you see the potential in super sidewalks as a human green and blue infrastructure?
Yes, of course I do. The funny thing is that the picture I showed you from Hornby is actually dealing not with the green one, but with the water. Did you notice the high curbstones and the stepping stones in the middle of the street? It's like the water has been there, and we have been dealing with it for 1,000 years. But when the car came in, we are kind of putting the water away and making the fast traffic coming ahead. And now we have this kind of turning around phase once again, where we want the water to be in the street, on the paving, to the plants, and use the streets as waterways. So it's kind of funny how the history is telling us we can do this, and we can combine the green and the blue in the city planning and the streets.
Thank you. There is a question here. Have you integrated super sidewalks into transit facilities in a city?
Actually, yes. The picture where I showed you the red line where I had this case from A to B. There's a small section which is already made as a super sidewalk, and that is really connecting the City Hall Square and the central station in Copenhagen, the Tivoli, a major tourist attraction, the cinemas, the theaters, everything is kind of connected in that little section. So yes.
Thank you. We will take the last question. Why and when to use the 8 rules of super sidewalks?
Well, I would like to say always, but of course it has to make sense, and and always is a wrong answer. So what we have to do is to see, is there any specific routes in a existing city that we want to that could be growing with retail life, and is there all the benefits I have shown you here in the presentation of the super sidewalks? We have to consider, where do we want those, because it's not everywhere. Some streets has just to be ordinary streets. Some sidewalks has definitely to be ordinary sidewalks. So it has this, the guideline number 1, connecting major terminals, junctions, attractions and destinations. This is kind of the most important thing. And can you lift and make a livable city too? Yes, then it's a good choice.
Fantastic, thank you. So we're at the end of our webinar session. Please feel free to follow up directly with Pernille via the contact details shown on the screen. And I would like to thank everyone for joining today. And thank you, Pernille, for a fantastic presentation. I love the examples, really nice. Thank you very much, everyone.